Okay, friends, welcome back to What's the Obsession. So, many of you know, probably most of you know, about the 6:16 a.m. ping that registered on Chris Watts' mistress's phone, Nicole Kessinger's phone, on August 13th, 2018. That is the morning of the Watts family tragedy. That is the morning when Chris Watts' family was annihilated by himself and perhaps with the help of another. And one of the things that makes many people believe there was help from another is the 6:16 a.m. phone ping from Nicole Kessinger's phone that happened with, according to the experts who have weighed in with What's the Obsession, within under 300 to 400 yards from 2825 Saratoga Trail, the address of the Watts family's residence. And although this is compelling evidence towards the possibility or probability or definitive understanding that Nicole Kessinger was a criminal part of this tragedy, we must remember that 6:16 a.m. phone ping is not the only piece of evidence, even just from the discovery around the time of the murders, that is highly incriminating towards Nicole Kessinger. And at the very least, makes one ask, was somebody else, anybody else there with Chris Watts when this tragedy happened? Among those pieces of evidence that we can look to and we will cover in this video are the Vivant alerts, the home router's phone log for the Watts family at 2825 Saratoga Trail, and a mysterious vehicle that was captured on neighbor Nate's security camera footage right after the 111-minute phone call between Chris Watts and Nicole Kessinger ended. Regarding the Watts family's home router log of devices that connected to it, I'm just going to read through some interesting information, and we're going to give it a little more context when we talk about neighbor Nate's security camera footage in just a moment. So on Sunday, 8/12, the day before the murders, at 12:15 p.m., Chris' personal phone connects to the home router. It does not connect again until 9 o'clock and 45 seconds p.m., and many people say, well, this means Chris Watts didn't get home until 9 p.m., giving evidence in their minds that after he took Bella and Celeste to the birthday party at the Lindstrom's house, he went somewhere else and not just home, perhaps out to Survey 319 then. I'm not sure if I believe that is what it means because, quite honestly, I don't understand enough about when and why a device connects to a specific router. But again, we're going to get into more detail on that in just a moment. And then again, at 11:20 p.m., twice, 11:20 and 35 seconds, and then 36 seconds, Chris's personal phone connects to the home router. And this is just 2 minutes after the 111-minute phone conversation between he and Nicole Kessinger ends. We then see that Chris's personal phone connects to the home router at the following times: 1:11 a.m., 1:32 a.m., 1:35 a.m. Then Shanann's personal phone connects with the Watts family home router when she arrives home at 1:48 a.m. after Nicole Utoff drops her off at her house. Then, very interestingly, at 5:25 a.m., an unknown Apple device connects to their home router at 5:25 a.m. That's interesting, right? Now, some people have suggested that unknown device might be Shanann's Apple Watch, but I don't think that's the case. First of all, because the authorities had the Apple Watch and would have known that's what it was. But we also have this, another instance of that unknown device connecting to the home router. So it's on Sunday, August 12th, the day before the murders. We have Chris Watts' work phone connecting to the home router at 9:26, 9:29, and again at 9:29. Then at 10:20 a.m., an unknown Apple device connects to the home router, and I believe it's the same device because it has the same MAC address. So on this day, Sunday, August 12th, in the morning, it should have only been Chris and the girls, Bella and Celeste, home by themselves. Nobody else was known to be in the house. So what is this unknown Apple device connecting to the Watts home router, and to whom does that device belong? Considering that unknown device connected to the Watts home router at 5:25 a.m. on the morning of the murders at 5:25 a.m. on August 13th, 2018, let's take a look at Chris Watts' movements early that morning. So we can see by looking at this time log provided from Anadarko of the geotab information on Chris Watts' work truck that he starts his truck at 5:18 a.m. at 2825 Saratoga Trail. We then know that Chris Watts takes several trips back and forth to the house, loading his work truck with something and doing God knows what. We know this because we see this happening on Nate's security camera footage that the whole world has seen. Now, we also know from this information provided from Anadarko that Chris Watts leaves 2825 Saratoga Trail at 5:46 a.m. He then drives to Survey 319, arriving there at 6:53 a.m. So it is right between the times when Chris Watts starts his work truck at 5:18 a.m. and when he leaves his house at 5:46 a.m. does this unknown Apple device connect to the Watts home router. That really gives you something to think about now, doesn't it? So next, there's some interesting information about the Vivant home security alert system. Now, the Watts had sensors on all their garage doors, the door from the garage to the mudroom, the basement door, the back sliding door, the front door, and there were not any sensors on the windows. And as far as motion sensors go, so anytime a door was open or closed with those sensors on them that I just mentioned, an alert would go off. Motion sensors were located in the right-hand corner of the living room area and in the basement. And there were entrance access via key code on a keypad for the garage door and the front door. Now, the way that the system works is the Vivant logs events and it alerts when all doors are open that have the sensors on them, as I mentioned, and it alerts if a door is not closed within a certain time frame that's been set on the control panel. And it logs all motion as an event. So when we look at the Vivant activity log for Monday, August 13th, we see at 1:48 a.m., Vivant logs Shanann opening the door. At 1:48 a.m., Vivant also logs motion happening in the living room. And it's not until 4:26 a.m. that Vivant logs the basement door opening. Inside, the garage door opens, and also there is motion in the living room. So from 1:48 a.m. to 4:26 a.m., there is no motion or doors opened logged in the Vivant security system alert system that Shanann and Chris receive on their phones. And obviously, Vivant can see when law enforcement requested that information. So the question is, if things happened even remotely like Chris Watts tells it, when exactly did he bring Shanann from the upstairs to the downstairs when he says that Bella was accompanying him and crying? When did the girls come from the upstairs to the downstairs? How did anything that we know happened in the house that day happen without the Vivant security home system detecting the motion that should have been detected as people were moving around within the house and opening and closing doors within the house and from inside the house to the outside? So now let's take a look at neighbor Nate's security camera footage. Actually, this is the perspective from Officer Coonrod's body cam video when he is over at Nate Trinistitch's house and Chris Watts is there. This is the day of the murders, August 13th, later in the day, when Chris has arrived home, Officer Coonrod has responded, and they're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Nate is showing Officer Coonrod this security camera footage, and he explains to Officer Coonrod that the security camera footage is motion triggered. So it is motion that starts the security camera to record. So that means whenever there is an image or some video recorded by Nate's security camera footage that was just shortly preceded by some kind of significant movement outside that caused the security camera to begin recording.
Is this on continually
Yep.
recording?
Yep. Well,
It's not, is it
any
motion or is it,
event,
okay, so it's motion.
Any motion event that happens, I get cars driving from this street, and this is him at 517.
While Nate is trying to find the security camera footage from the evening before and the early morning that day, he's flipping through some frames, and we can see this one frame that is labeled 11:25 p.m. that is just of headlights going by the Watts house, by Nate's security camera. So isn't that interesting? We can see here on this page from Discovery, these are the last hours of August 12, 2018, that Sunday night, that night of the 111-minute phone conversation, and that night where we see that image on Nate's security camera footage at 11:25 p.m. At 9:29, Shanann made an unanswered call to Chris Watts. Well, that call was unanswered, at least in part because the 111-minute phone conversation went from 9:28 p.m. to 11:19 p.m. So interestingly, Shanann tried to call Chris Watts just 1 minute after he got on the phone with Nicole Kessinger. And then Shanann, during the phone call, also says, through a text, I tried to call you, giving you an update. And she's telling him that the plane is going to be significantly late. And then at 9:45, she sends a flight information. And it's not until Chris Watts gets off the phone call with Nicole Kessinger that ends at 11:19. At 11:21 p.m., 2 minutes later, Watts replies finally, "Holy crap, sorry, I pass out on the couch. That's going to be late." It is then 4 minutes later, after Chris Watts sends this text to Shanann, that we see this image from Nate's security camera footage of headlights at the Watts house. Whose headlights were those, and what was going on at the Watts house at that hour? Just 6 minutes after the 111-minute phone call ended. What I've circled here in yellow is a screenshot of his security camera menu that is dated at 11:25 p.m. on Sunday, August 12th. And it shows headlights going by the Watts house. So that is most likely, based on what we know about how Nate's security camera works, what triggers it, and when it starts recording, we can safely deduct, I would say. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. I'd be happy to talk about it. Questioning things, you'll learn more about them. We think we can safely say it's that car going by that set off Nate's security camera. So there's a car going by at 11:25 p.m. So this is 6 minutes after his 111-minute phone call with Nicole Kessinger ends. It is 4 minutes after he finally responds, after a couple hours, to Shanann saying, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be really late," lying, saying, "I fell asleep on the couch." And it's just really curious timing. We can see from the menu selection that Nate goes through the purview of Officer Coonrod's body cam footage, that the next event on his security camera footage menu is when Chris Watts starts to go out to his truck at 5:17 a.m. Now, I would just like to reiterate that it seems that as we look at the official Discovery timeline of events that happened in the investigation towards the murders of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste Watts, that Nicole Kessinger is being protected Well, we do know that she's being protected because right away, on the first day of the investigation, the FBI has declared she is a protected witness. See, again, that is right here on FBI documentation. As I have noted before, Nicole Kessinger appears throughout the entire official discovery timeline, all throughout it. In fact, the very first event on the official discovery timeline is Nicole Kessinger texting the name Shanann Watts on September 1st, 2017, which is 9 months before Chris and Shanann claim to have met. Then all of a sudden, from Saturday evening, the evening of August 11th, until very late in the day, the evening of Monday, August 13th, many hours after the murders have occurred, for close to 48 hours, Nicole Kessinger is conspicuously missing. Any mentioning of her is conspicuously missing from the official discovery timeline. Even though during that time, there's a lot that happens with her, including the 111-minute phone conversation on Sunday evening and her 6:16 a.m. ping outside the Watts house on the morning of the murders.